Morning, everyone. This meeting will now come to order, and I will read the EPSB mission statement. The Educational Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its education partners, promotes high levels of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky. Serving as board secretary is Ms. Sharon Chesser. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Amanda Ellis,
Present.
Michael Yoder, Scotty Collar, Elijah Edwards, Kathy Gunn, Priscilla Keller,
Present.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Present.
Lori McCann, present, Justin Mitchell,
Present.
Corinne Murphy, Meredith Pittman,
Present.
Lisa Rosinski,
Present.
Vice Chair Fryer,
Present.
Chair Snell.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you so much. Commissioner of Education, Dr. Robert Fletcher, joins us this morning as Executive Secretary to EPSB. I will now recognize Dr. Fletcher to give his report.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. A few updates from the Commissioner's office. Something I think that this group will be happy to hear about. Not that you've heard any complaints whatsoever about Senate Bill 181. None whatsoever, I'm sure. But no, in all seriousness, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Senator Lindsay Titchener. She had a group that met yesterday with the K groups, and she'd already done a lot of legwork, she and her staff. They're looking at some suggestions on how to change Senate Bill 181. One of the suggestions that came through that I think this group would be very happy with was possibly a screening at the district level before it become an automatic report to EPSB. So that's one of the suggestions of, allow an employee, a volunteer to say, this is what happened. If they self-reported, this is what happened, this is the interaction, this is the conversation, and then allowing the local district to determine if that is something that should be elevated to EPSB. So that was one of the suggestions I felt like that this group would be very interested in. There were several others as we go through. We'll get an opportunity to see some of those, I'm sure, in some of the legislation. So they are looking at amendments to add to that. And again, these amendments came from KASS, the superintendents. They came from KEA, came from CAPE, also came from KASA, and many others too. So again, I appreciate the listening of our legislators and to make those changes that they feel that could be very helpful as we move forward. Again, I do believe the intent of the bill was to be for the safety of students. We all agree with that, I do believe. But again, it does need some revisions, and that's something that will happen as we move forward. I do feel strongly about that. Also, too, I think it's been a little while since I was here in the June meeting. We talked a little bit about this. We are in the middle of the advocacy phase for our new accountability model. I'm meeting with legislators one-on-one about what does the new accountability model look like. I've also presented with two superintendents and also with our Associate Commissioner, Jennifer Stafford, who is our new Office of Accountability and Assessment Associate Commissioner. And we met with the Interim Joint Committee in Education, gave a testimony on what the new accountability model would look like if it would pass as is. So we are meeting with different legislators to say we want to meet with you one-on-one to really go through this and give you an opportunity to ask questions. And we're meeting with legislators, particularly in the Education Committee. So very excited about that work, especially the local accountability piece that goes along with that. So we're very excited about that opportunity. And if you're in a district that has done a lot of local accountability work, I hear from those districts it is game-changing. As a matter of fact, one of the quotes I often from Jesse Bacon says that this process of local accountability has restored the faith of the community in their school system, and they have more and more people that are being involved. So it's very, very good work, and look forward to that as we move forward. Also, too, before I call on others to give reports, we have many of our school districts have already had students in the classroom, which is great. I see that first week tired and has maybe worn off a little bit, because I tell people I can remember being a teacher, there is no tired like week one tired for a teacher. So now for a principal, probably week 3, maybe it might be more along the lines, but week 1 tired, even for the administration, was very difficult. So That Friday, the recliner looked great after getting home. But it's very thankful to see the students, and I heard a lot of great stories already. Our last group of districts should start as early as as late as next week. We do have, I think it was a bill in 2017 we affectionately call the boat dock bill that has alternate calendars as a possibility. So we do have some districts that will be starting next week. And so hopefully by the first week of September, we'll have everybody rolling. We do have a couple districts that have had some construction issues. They've had to have some delays, so we've been working with them as we move forward also. So from my end, that's some from the department. I also would like to give an opportunity for, I believe we have, Dr. Ellis, of course, will be from the Council of Post-Secondary Education, will be giving us her report, if she wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So good to be with you all today. And our campuses kicked off yesterday, and it will go from there. Lots of move-ins, lots of tears from parents, and excitement from students. And I think this is probably one of the best times to be on a campus if you need any kind of energy. It's there. It's there. Just a few updates. We're really pleased. We have really worked on supporting our campuses with persistence and retention. These are trying times, and the value of higher education. And when we say higher ed, we don't always mean traditional 4-year. We mean 2-year, 4-year, short-term credentials, whatever is going to get those students the credentialing that they need, the degrees that they need for a successful career and a quality of life. And so we were really pleased, according to the National Student Clearinghouse, Kentucky's 1-year gains in undergraduate persistence and retention were the highest in the nations from 2023 to 24, increasing 9.8 and 7.9 percentage points. Thanks to these increases, Kentucky now surpasses the national average in both persistence and retention, marking a significant rebound from the pandemic period, which has been hard on everyone, especially on our campuses who have worked tirelessly to re-engage students of all ages. And so Kentucky's current persistence rate is 85.3%, and its retention rate is 74% compared to national averages 77.6 and 69.5%. So really pleased with those gains. We got work to do. I'm sure you can see fatigue on the campuses as well, especially those who are in the throes of onboarding new students, getting them enrolled, seeking out transcripts, chasing down dual credit transcripts, all the things, financial aid. So really pleased with that. We did award about $4.3 million to 28 post-secondary healthcare programs across Kentucky. It's a part of our Healthcare Workforce Investment Fund grants. We have had great success in this. The awards will provide training scholarships for over 200 Kentucky residents, students studying fields within the workforce shortages. And the money was made possible through the Kentucky Healthcare Workforce Investment Fund, a public-private partnership enacted by our 2023 legislative session. So there are donations between hospitals and healthcare facilities and then our state. So it's not just the state paying, but it's a true partnership and matching dollars, which is amazing. We also are a part of a grant for prison education. So those who are impacted by criminal justice system, re-engaging those students, we're a part of a 5-state association with SHIO, which is like our organization, to participate in a 1-year learning community to expand post-secondary opportunities for those incarcerated adults. So in hopes of really building out a new start for them when they exit and come back to civilian life. And then another piece just want to bring to your attention, I always like to remind you of Futurity. That is just really taking off. The whole site is taking off. We are working really hard for some private dollars as well for continued marketing for targeted audiences who may not know where to start, not know where to go. I'm really pleased to let you know that if you go to Future Finder, what we have since added is military jobs, MOSs, are aligned now to possible career pathways, so they can see if they have this MOS, what career pathways it could align to when they come back to civilian life. Many of our men and women who served and finish out are still in their 20s and 30s and come out without any idea what to do in the world. And many of them can upskill or use the skills that they have and have some credit for prior learning, and there's a lot of work going on with that. There are also career pathways that align to our high school pathways. So if you are a student who's pursuing different pathways, they can see what jobs that relates to in Kentucky. It'll show the demand, average pay, and it'll also show the institutions that offer additional credentialing and degrees that align with that. We are just continuing to build on that. It's all Kentucky-centric. public, private institutions, some proprietary schools that have information available, and really leads individuals who want to use this to the right way. Some of the work that we are still working on, which is a monster of a deal, is aligning scholarship opportunities. So we're just trying to get a hold of the database that Kia has. They maintain a lot. If you've seen the scholarship book, it's over 400 pages, and we're trying to get that electronic and aligned to some easier ways to access that. And then we'll be working with all of our campuses on grants and not as many loans, but grants, forgiveness loans, and scholarships that align. It's just going to take us a little while to get there, but we're working towards it. We had the opportunity to share with the Interim Joint Committee on Education briefly, and some great one-on-one meetings to talk about the benefits of this, and it is free for anybody who wants to use it. So we've seen a real hike in middle school and high school use, so we're really pleased with that because we want those options to be authentic, not compliance-driven and personalized. So really happy about that. And then the last thing I want to share with you is that this fall, November 17th, we are kicking off a Student Access Summit. Typically, CPE hosts a Student Success Summit in the spring. This is about really retention, support services for students to help them engage and be retained and complete their programs. Access, we're really trying to get K-12 and higher ed together to talk about access for all students and what does that look like. And so we just kicked off the registration yesterday. It's going to be in November, like I said, at the Campbell House in Lexington. It's new for us. We're really trying to engage K-12 and higher ed, and so we're going to do a call for proposals. And there are a list of topics that we would love to share, promising practices with others from a higher ed perspective, advising, onboarding, transition. How do we inform families, especially families with students with disabilities, and what their options are on campuses? We don't talk the same language. How do we onboard first-generation students, students of low-income background, adult learners? There's a lot of options, dual credit opportunities, early post-secondary opportunities, work-based learning. How does that all play into their future planning? And so that's what we're coming together. Like I said, we're very excited. We opened up registration yesterday, and we already had 15 within the first hour. And so we were pleased with that because normally it takes a while, and it's not until November. And so please check that out, and I will gladly send that to the board too, so you guys are aware of that, but we try to get that information out. And I'll stop there, Commissioner. I could go on. And the Continuum meets next Wednesday for our meeting. And so we're talking about K-12 and workforce partnerships, K-12 post-secondary and workforce partnerships, and how we can continue to streamline that and really have a really tight pipeline. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellison. I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Dr. Ellis, but also to Dr. Thompson for that. There's so many things where we align. Whether we're the partnership on futurity, the consortium, and so many other areas too, and then also the portrait of graduate work.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of alignment there that's going on. But also too, I think one of the, as many of you know, recently KDE went through an audit, and one of the noteworthy findings that they pointed out was the percentage of students that are in high school students enrolled in college, which is an indicator of dual credit.
Yes.
And the latest data from 22-23, Kentucky ranked 5th in the nation for the percentage of students that are having that type of opportunity. So, and that's, to me, that is an excellent indicator of the alignment and the partnership that's going on there. So thank you, Dr. Ellis, for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And please send that on to Dr. Thompson, too.
Absolutely. Happy to do that.
Appreciate that. Also, too, now we have Dr. Meredith Brewer, who will be giving us a report from the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness. Dr. Brewer.
Good morning. It has been a very busy summer in OELE, so I wanted to share a few highlights from our amazing team. If we go to the next slide. I'm sure you are familiar with the Go Teach KY landing page. On the next slide, I wanted to celebrate a few stats from our analytics. Awesome, thank you. So as of launch in early April, we have had over 78,000 unique users visiting the website and over 830,000 interactions. So those are what are typically referred to as clicks, so engagement with the website. I do want to draw your attention to that bounce rate. I know I shared information about that during our last meeting, but that's a really important metric. That means that someone is going to that page and interacting with something on the page. They're not just immediately leaving. And you'll notice that on the certification page, our bounce rate is only 6.1%. So people are going to that certification page, which has all of the information about the different pathways to certification and engaging with that page in particular. So we also have a 12.7% bounce rate on that Find Your Path. That's where we have those columns that sort of help provide guidance on how to enter the teaching profession. These are important stats related to our campaign that we have been promoting this summer. So we're really excited to see this level of engagement with the new website. I am very excited to introduce you to Diego. Diego is our new AI that will be launching on the Go Teach website. So we were very excited that OET reached out to us to offer to have the Go Teach website be the first KDE platform to have an interactive AI chatbot. I have learned a lot about chatbots over in the last few months, and apparently Diego is an agentic AI, and that means that he is an agent and he is able to learn things and he provides a service. And so the important thing about Diego, most of what he knows, about 85%, comes from the website content. And so as we add new materials to the Go Teach website, he learns more things and can answer more accurately. But there is a percentage that we can teach him. So we can provide guardrails, we can provide static responses that we want him to give to certain prompts. And our amazing team in OET is helping to teach Diego all of these important things. So hopefully Diego will be launching here in the next week or so. Our team has been testing him and asking him questions to ensure that his responses are accurate. We know that chatbots can have a tendency to hallucinate, so they'll piece together information and come up with slightly incorrect answers. But Diego has been doing an excellent job, so we're very proud of him. So we are excited that we'll have this service. We do get a lot of very similar questions in the system, either through email or phone calls. Just as a side note, OELE has more phone calls than any other office at the department by a significant amount. And so we're hoping that with Diego's excellent training that he will be able to provide some of those responses that are repetitive and will be able to help people with their certification process. And he is extremely cute. So we are
I was wondering when the mascot costume was going to come out. Chair Snell said she wants to get in that and just start visiting.
I am here for that.
Okay.
So Dr. Fletcher and I have had many interactions about the design of Diego to the point where I think he is probably ready for him to launch so we can stop talking about his glasses. But
The second from the right on there was what finally I just had to say, Meredith, he can go. And that was the actual expression that I used there. So
I do. At this point, he will have a single expression, but I have encouraged Dr. Park to see if we can make him have different reactions based on the question. So as you can imagine, the frustrated one, that's an expression all of us teachers are familiar with when we get asked the same question over and over again. So, maybe that's in the future for Diego. All right, if we move on to the next slide.
and it was just, and I will say, just too cute. Go Diego, go teach. It was just
Yes.
brilliant, Meredith.
He
Very nice
is
job.
bringing us a lot of joy, I have to say. So happy to announce the Go Teach Ambassador application is officially live. Those applications are available until September 30th. We know that our ambassador program is a critical part of our Go Teach campaign. Vice Chair Fryer is a former ambassador and can speak to how important that program is. We know that they support Educators Rising and teaching learning pathway efforts, but they also play that critical role of being an advocate for the profession, actually serving in that role. And we know it's so important that current teachers are talking about the profession in positive ways. So if you have anyone in your school that you think would make an excellent ambassador, please encourage them to apply. The goal is always for us to have statewide representation. So we would love to invite more ambassadors onto the team. If we go to the next slide, we know summer is a very busy time for our certification team. So since August of 2024, so last year, over 39,000 applications have been reviewed and approved. And you can see the stats just for this summer from May to August, with the peak there over a little 4,500 in July. And so I do want to just say our amazing certification team and their expert utilization of KEX allows for applications to be processed in under 1 day, which is amazing. And I know I'd shared previously that in some states, weeks, months for the applications to be processed, and we have such a quick turnaround. So that is something to celebrate for sure. We are going to have our second annual educator shortage survey that is going to be fielded to districts in early September. That is something we started last year. As you all know, KEPS, which is our required placement system where vacancies are posted, does not provide very accurate vacancy data for a variety of reasons. And so last year, Commissioner Fletcher asked that we directly communicate with districts about vacancies as of the start of the school year so that we could report that information to LRC and have a better capture of what the vacancy situation is across the state. In addition to kind of those numbers of vacancies, we also get information around how districts are addressing those shortages. Are they expanding class sizes? Are they having to have long-term subs? Some of those strategies. And that's helpful for us to be able to speak to the impact of the shortage. Okay, next slide. Our P3 team, I always say they're small but mighty. We have 3 amazing former principals who help to support our principals across the state and assistant principals. They provide training around certified evaluation. They have networks for principals so that they can support each other. But one exciting new offering that I wanted to highlight is the Navigate system, and it is a collaborative effort with CKEC and the Association of School Councils. And it is focusing on the development of effective systems. And so there's a link on the slide deck that we'll be sure to share that has information about these systems. And there's going to be a system for every letter in Navigate. And the first system that launched is needs-based wellness. And so we know that these are important conversations for our administrators to be having, and we know how important a principal is for the health of the school. And so we're excited that our P3 team continues to provide such excellent support to our administrators. Next slide. Our Ed Prep team is doing an amazing job supporting our EPPs across the state. I do want to highlight that our literacy and numeracy work groups that have faculty members from our different institutions continue to meet regularly. And we have heard such great feedback about that model to have that engagement with faculty members as we think through the implementation of both Read to Succeed and numeracy counts. We do have some professional learning opportunities for our faculty members coming up. We know that in June, the board approved the KMIT observation tool as the one required observation protocol for our math education students. And so we are providing some training in collaboration with the Kentucky Center for Mathematics about using that KMIT tool and about the effective math teaching practices. And then later in the fall, we'll have a more robust training about the math teaching practices because we do know that to use the tool effectively, the observer needs to have that strong understanding of the math practices as well. And then we have our second round of professional learning with the New Teacher Project, TNTP. They are providing optional but encouraged training around lesson internalization, which aligns with our high-quality instructional resource efforts. We continue to work to expand KEX to provide services to both schools and districts and our EPPs, and we are finalizing the program review process in KEX and adding in a new annual reporting function where EPPs will be asked to every year submit information about alignment, about any changes to their coursework so that we can have that regular check-in with our EPPs. And so that is exciting because typically our touch points were a little more extended between, so we are glad that we're going to have this opportunity to do those check-ins. As you know, it is one of the responsibilities of the board to ensure program quality. All right, last slide. We do have launching in the fall the Impact Kentucky Working Conditions Survey. That is something that is supported by OELE, and we are thrilled to provide that service to districts. For over a decade, Kentucky has administered a working conditions survey biannually, and it is an opportunity for certified educators to provide feedback on their working conditions. We always encourage everyone to think about this data as sort of a moment in time snapshot, but it is an opportunity to identify areas of success and maybe areas of growth or places that maybe are a surprising point of concern that you can, as an administrator, intervene on it and make a significant and positive change for your staff. So that will be open in November, and then the data will be released in the winter, in January. All right, that concludes my report. Happy to entertain any questions.
Just quickly, as someone who has transitioned schools this year, this never really struck me until before, but is there a reason why the time frame is November through December? And the reason for my question is as a new person at a new school, I will not even have finished my first full grading period by that time. So I like I said, for the past 7 years, it didn't bother me. I didn't think about it as much because I'd been in those similar working conditions, right? But now as someone at a new school, I won't be able to have a full picture. Does that make sense? So
It does. So we have changed the response period over the years to sort of address that, because if we do a winter administration, then the results don't come out until the late spring. And so then that we get feedback that it's hard to respond because the data is not available. If we get close to kind of spring fever, chaos time, maybe people feel like the data isn't representative of maybe a better time period in the school's sort of life cycle. So there isn't a perfect time for us to administer the survey, but this does allow for release of the data during the school year. And if there are those, sometimes there are things that are exposed that really are not too challenging to address, and it makes a big difference. And so we want to get that data to administrators and staff as quickly as possible. So that is sort of where we have fallen. We do have that longer window because it does sort of overlap with the holidays. But we will continue to tweak it to try to find that perfect time, but we've yet to
just curious
discover.
there.
Yes,
Hadn't impacted me for the past several years.
that's
but
right.
See what you did there.
I see what you did there too.
Can I?
Impacted, sorry.
First of all, Meredith, this is great and exciting work you guys are doing. I love it. It's very encouraging. And for Impact, one of the things we did explore Amber March for a long time when it was Tell Kentucky, and everybody hated March because everybody is ready for spring break. I'll just leave that. And so there is no perfect time, true. And but my hope for Impact is that I feel like for the past few years, it's really been overlooked and not invested in time with our school and district leadership. It has not been a priority for a long time, not because of the efforts of here. It just has not. There's been a lot going on, a lot of change in our world, right? But this is the opportunity, and Kentucky has always been an incredible contributor to this survey, meaning teachers and staff and faculty, or however you want to say it. And I feel like it is an opportunity for us to look into the voices of those in the classrooms to share their lived experiences and their perceptions. And so my hope is that this is really ramped back up as a true tool for voice, because we talk about how we are listening to people, and we have this survey that we can listen pretty loudly. And even if it's not great, we need to ask why. And if it's fantastic, we need to ask why. And what are those promising practices? And so for the longest time, when we were and I look at Todd Davis on this sometimes because he was stuck with me on this, but we were the top respondents. We had over 46,000 respondents, and that has not changed that much. It's gone up, so it's not gone away. And we were really recognized because everybody would say, how did you get so many people to answer? And we did partnerships. We had trusted sources. It was not a gotcha, and nobody has the answers and nobody's identification. You can trade off codes all day long. But I really hope that you dig into the richness, and I hope you guys, when you have it, will bring it back to this board to really share what's going on in the culture and climate of our schools. And it's not as a gotcha by any means, but how do we need to really focus in on support? And where do we prioritize how we can be supportive of our teachers and their training and their support? Because we talk about mentorship a lot, and we talk about support of new teachers. We need to look at that demographic of 0 to 5 years. We need to look at those who have been around and go, I'm tired, I'm burnt out. We need to know why. So I'm excited about this. I nerd and geek out about Impact because I feel like it gives people an opportunity to speak truth through their lived experience. So that's my thing. I hope we bring this back and really get to deep dive, and you guys lead us through the results of that, and we value it, and we and we market it in a way that it's not a gotcha, but a really good tool for us to use and tap back into, because it's not a cheap thing. It's an investment for the state and an opportunity to give voice. But my 2 cents.
And one thing that I will note, so we work with Panorama Education. They are the vendor that was selected to provide the survey. Previously, TEL was through TNTP. They no longer offered that survey, and so we transitioned to Panorama. And the bulk of our contract is around professional learning supports and the platform so that people can interact with the data and use it in a meaningful way, as Dr. Ellis has referenced. And so whatever we can do to promote using those professional learning opportunities. There's modules on the Impact Kentucky website. That's really the benefit of the contract that we have with Panorama, is to interpret and utilize the data. The actual fielding of the survey is just the first step. Using the data as it's intended is really our hope. So we will certainly come back and provide information about the survey. I do want to just mention to all of you and to encourage your peers, it is 100% confidential. We have no way to know who submitted the data. And we have our contract with Panorama explicitly states that there's no way for us to be able to know anything about the submitters of the data. So please feel confident that when you submit that data, it is confidential. Now, of course, if you're at a very small school and you're answering information around number of years, there is potentially, if someone really wanted to dig in at that level. However, as far as us at the state and, overall, there's not a way to tie back to an individual respondent. So I just wanted to reassure everyone to please use this as an opportunity to share about working conditions.
This sounds like a really great opportunity to gain information. But as an educator and talking to other educators, when we see a survey come through, we're like, oh my God, one more survey. How can this survey be different to where we really get educators or people to fill it out, to really get what you need? Okay. Because it is, we get a lot of surveys and it can be very time consuming, and we just want it to be effective. So I don't know how this one is going to be different to get people to fill it out.
So I do want to make a shout out to our Go Teach team, and Jarvis in particular, who is our communications person. He has designed an entire communications campaign about the impact survey with the hashtag Ready for Impact, which I think is just so clever. So we do have targeted communications that will be released here as we enter into the fall. We've also communicated with some key stakeholders to make videos promoting the survey and explaining about the confidentiality and how this is an opportunity to share your thoughts. But we encourage any other suggestions you all may have to help us increase the response rate and for people to take it seriously, because we don't want people to feel that it is potentially punitive and they don't answer honestly. It really is, a chance, and there aren't many for our educators to speak at this level of detail about their working conditions. And so if we can encourage honest responses, that's what we want to have.
And we would, love, like, afterwards, getting a positive shout out to the schools. Like, if one school has a really great culture and climate response, shout that particular school out. Just pull out the positives.
That is, we used to have banners that we would have as far as response rates, and there was some encouragement around that. We do have on our team, Ellie Gilbert, the assistant director in educator recruitment and development, uses the impact survey for that very reason, to identify schools that have those positive cultures or have strong leadership, and then uses that when we think about providing some exemplars. So absolutely, whatever we can do to make this administration a success, we are interested in doing so. So we will make sure that we share with Cassie kind of our plan for the communications. If you are active on social media, Vice Chair Fryer and Chair Snell, if you want to retweet and share, I don't know if it's tweeting anymore. If you want to share the posts and encourage participation, but honestly, the most effective is a direct communication with your fellow teachers to reassure them about the intended use, and that really this is their chance to share about their working condition. So sometimes just that verbal reassurance that we have nothing but good intentions for this data.
And I'll add to that. Once upon a time, TEL was the survey. And I think that it brought it to the attention, teacher voice and what needed to change. Improvement plans are based on this. But I think that one of the positives could also be negatives is we realized, and I say we, educators realized, lawmakers realized that having that voice is so important, so we implemented other surveys, such as the climate and safety survey. It's a part of accountability. And then you also now have exit surveys for teachers. I agree there's a lot of surveys out there, but as a positive, this was the survey. And I can remember as a principal, like getting onto my central office because they had wrong person assigned to my district because I wanted the 100% on the survey. So again, with that, or assigned to my school, I should say. But with that being said, this gives a level of detail of information that you could really build improvement plans on to increase your culture. So I do appreciate the marketing campaign that's going on here with OELE.
It may be worth, when the surveys are released, reaching out to KEA, AFT, in addition to the superintendent and principal groups, but the teacher groups as well for their media blasts that go out that, encouraging their members to.
We will do that for
those.
sure. Yes. But if you, on the drive home, think of some other ideas, please don't hesitate to let us know. But again, November is the official launch for the survey. So we have a little bit of time to kind of think about strategy. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. And one thing that I'll mention in closing with OELE is also taking on our Kentucky Teacher of the Year program. And I had the blessing of calling the 9 teachers personally. I take that on, and I started this last year to call the teachers one-on-one to say, and just because I wanted to hear what the reaction was. And of course, my favorite reaction was, "Shut up!" No, ma'am, I promise this is the commissioner, and you are one of the 3 finalists for Elementary Teacher of the Year. Shut up! No, ma'am, I'm serious. And then a few others. I think I had a sermon from another one and a few others. So, just to have those conversations with the teachers were phenomenal. I want to thank OELE for the work that they've taken this on, starting this past year on having the Kentucky Teacher of the Year program, and these teachers represent so many great people across our Commonwealth. It's hard to get to 9. Do you remember how many applicants we had this year? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
It's a rigorous process.
It is. It's a very rigorous process.
A lot of applicants and a lot of scoring, and it is a huge effort.
Yes.
So they take the selection very seriously, which we appreciate. So those who are identified, as Dr. Mitchell was previously, are truly exceptional.
Absolutely. And again, we'll give you a report on that when we actually name the final Kentucky Teacher of the Year. So that's very exciting. So with that being said, Chair Snell, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. Ms. Chesser, has anyone signed up for Open Speak? All right. Today I want to introduce a new standing item on the report of the chair to highlight the amazing work that's taking place in our educator preparation at our Kentucky colleges and universities. The Kentucky Association of Colleges and Teacher Education typically holds a meeting immediately following open session of the EPSB in-person meetings. So today during CACT's meeting, OELE staff will share with the members additional information on how they may highlight the work of their institution at a future meeting. However, to get things started, Dr. Elizabeth Dinkins from Bellarmine University has graciously agreed to provide the inaugural presentation for the EPP Spotlight. Thank you, Dr. Dinkins, for your willingness to join us today.
You are more than welcome. Is it working?
I think
Put a
so.
little closer.
Use your teacher voice, too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm a middle school teacher, so I can clear everything. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you about what we do at Bellarmine University. And I want to appreciate Chair Snell for reaching out to me a couple of weeks ago and saying, hey, we want to do this new thing, and will you be first? Because being first is always like, yeah, that's great. I get to sort of like figure out where to go. And being first is also like, oh no, what if I don't tell them what they need? So I just want to encourage you to ask questions, interrupt me if there's something specific you want to know. But I want to thank you for this. So yeah, I'm Elizabeth Jenkins, and I'm the dean at Bellarmine Education School. We're an independent Catholic liberal arts institution in Louisville, Kentucky. Our graduates serve not just Jefferson County, but the surrounding districts quite a bit. And then we also send people to sort of the far-flung corners of the state sometimes as well. So we are very mission motivated, which is why I'm starting with that slide, right? We want educators who can teach and lead, and we really think about leading as a key component of that, because whether you're an initial certified teacher or you're a principal in training or you're a veteran teacher who's come back to build their capacity, right? You're leading, and that's particularly important in today's age. So just a quick overview of our programs and what we do. At the initial cert, we have a bachelor's program and we have a Master of Arts in Teaching. Our most popular program is our elementary education program, and it's a dual certification. It's a required dual certification between special education, which is for us is LBD, and elementary ed. We also require that of all of our undergraduate middle school educators. That's very mission critical to us at Bellarmine. We realize that that means that our students come in and they take 19 credits hours a semester to graduate in 4 years, or they guarantee they're going to do summer work. But we're committed to preparing teachers who can do both of those jobs if needed, because, you know, if you're an elementary education teacher, the special education training will support you in the work, right? And then we have some who graduate, quite a few graduate and say, I want to be a special ed teacher. And then our Master of Arts in Teaching, we just recently added the dual cert option with LBD for that. So while it's not as popular yet because it's an additional 4 classes, it's still something we're encouraging folks to do. And then for our advanced programs, we focus on the teacher leader program, the literacy specialist, principal preparation at both the master's and the EDS level, and then district leadership to the superintendent. And then we just, as you all passed at the end of this spring, we opened up an ELL endorsement. So we hope to launch that spring or summer of 2026 because we know that's a really high demand field. We were really excited to get that program going. We've been wanting to do it for years, but I was really committed to, we have to have the right faculty member to lead it. And we made that hire 2 years ago. So she spent 1 year getting to know the institution and then 1 year writing that program, which was really exciting. So next slide, please. I know that literacy and numeracy are really important in the way you all are talking about that. So just want to share a little of what we're doing in terms of innovations there. So we have a robust history of teaching what we would have called the Big Five, right? Which is actually the old school science of reading, or what you now would call structured literacy. And Bellarmine was known for that prior to my even being hired 14 years ago. The Literacy Act still required us to do some really deep thinking in that world. And so I have 2 literacy faculty members, one that's focused on sort of the elementary grades and one that's focused on the adolescent grades. My elementary educator jumped right up and said, yeah, I'm doing all of this. And so she did the first 2 cohorts of the letters training. She's been a very active member of the early literacy cohort. You guys have actually seen her present. It's Dr. Wynn Wheeler, right? So she's really emerged as kind of a leader in that group, if I can stretch to say that. Yeah, Melissa's agreeing with me. We were able to start revisions to our classes pretty early because of that. So we now have 3 literacy methods courses, which we call very clearly Literacy 1, 2, and 3. It's really focused on building the content knowledge, the assessment knowledge, and the pedagogy that new teachers need to be able to meet the requirements of that sort of expectation of what's happening in classrooms, but also for us to meet the requirements of that legislation. That's also led to a really increased collaboration between our special education faculty and our literacy faculty, which again, that's 2 people in my institution. We're really small, but we have created boutique partnerships where those 2 classes, those 2 methods courses work together, and they go into a particular school. They work with early elementary classrooms. They assess kids one-on-one using different tools for foundational literacy. They then they analyze that stuff, talk about next instructional steps, and then work with teachers on implementation. So it's a really pretty unique and deep experience for an undergraduate junior to get. And that's where that's happening. And we hope to create more opportunities like that. We're exploring the opportunity of adding UFly work through online tutoring partnerships, which somebody has reached out to us, an organization called HUG has reached out to us about. And we're thinking about how can that really work. Could that be a permanent part of a methods course, for example? Would that be robust enough for our students to really get some good learning out of it? We have a student right now, we have an internship opportunity, which is different than practicum or professional semester. So we have a student right now who's doing that internship, doing that as an internship, and she's kind of like our pilot because we're going to get a sense of like, how strong is this experience for you? Anybody that runs a school of ed knows that like your opportunity for partnerships are endless because people reach out to you. They automatically think, those people want to be teachers. They can come work in our school or they can work in our tutoring program. And some of those programs are great, but we are really, we're stewards of the work that we do. And we want to make sure that if we have a partnership, we're going to be providing high quality learning for our students so they can provide high quality learning for their future students. And then right now we're looking at the feedback that we got from the pilot of the third party review to see how else can we improve our courses. And we're really thinking about our MAT. MAT is a little bit of a challenge with both the literacy and the numeracy legislation. I'm just going to kind of be honest and perhaps a little vulnerable in this space. So it's good this is on TV.
Welcome to our world.
MAT programs have to be efficient for them to be able to stay viable today. We have cut our MAT down in terms of credit hours because we saw our enrollment decline. Now, to compensate for that, we've also created some really deep partnerships with districts, right? So the idea is that if we provide more intensive training, will we get there? But the MAT is not, I can't just have 3 literacy methods courses in my MAT program, right? It just doesn't work that way. So we're using the feedback that we got from the third-party review to really look critically at that to see where can we make some adjustments. The literacy work, you can go to the next slide. I hate that I'm talking to thank you, whoever's doing that. The literacy work is more advanced than the math, right? Because the math legislation came after. So we're working on that right now. Again, our math education faculty has been really active in that math learning community, which I think is the MLC. Did I make that up? Numeracy? Is it numeracy? Sorry. She is also really working very closely with our clinical placement coordinator to prepare our university supervisors about using this KMIT tool, right? The numeracy work is different than the literacy work and what's expected of it. And this is the first time we've ever been handed a tool that you've said, like, you have to use this and you have to use this in particular grades. And it's going to shape a lot about teacher placements, which I think will be positive, but will also maybe create some challenges for us. Right now, the two of them are working together. I think that our math educator, and I only have one of those, is going to go out with our university supervisors and they're going to co-observe to be able to really understand. Our math educator understands the KMIT, but we have to make sure our university supervisors do, and that they do it in such a way that the feedback that we're giving to the students is authentic feedback, right? Because rubric, to be able to assess what we do is one thing, but all of our rubrics are for learning. I mean, they just are, even at the summative space, because educators are always learning. There's no such thing as an end of a feedback cycle, right? We just go into the next one. And so that's something we're thinking really intentionally about. We're also in the process of revising our curriculum to add a second math methods course at the elementary level. We have a pretty heavy math content for our undergraduates in our arts and sciences curriculum. This legislation has made me say, maybe we need to take one of those classes and make it ours. So we would double our methods space. That's also building content knowledge, but it's building pedagogical content knowledge, which I think is really what the KMIT is getting at. So that's something we're working towards. And we have to collaborate with our colleagues in the Bellarmine College of Arts and Sciences to make that happen. So we're really working to think about alignment. So that's another conversation with the math faculty in Bellarmine's Arts and Sciences College to talk about, like, what is being asked, how has that changed, how do we still ensure praxis preparation, what's the alignment in that space. And so I think that there's just kind of like, we got to get into the nitty gritty of it, and we'll spend this year really doing that. We also know that our elementary educators tend to come to us less confident about their math knowledge and skills, right? And we know that from capacity building work that we've done with schools, partner schools, right? So in addition to kind of like building their content knowledge and their pedagogical content knowledge, we've got to make them feel comfortable about math. I will frequently go and observe, and I observe our classes. I'll go and observe the math methods course if it's early in the semester, and I will watch our undergrad students almost revert to high school behaviors because they will become uncomfortable with what the teacher is asking them to do. We've got, and this educator and I have spent some time talking about this, we've got to build their efficacy around math so that they feel comfortable doing instruction, taking risks for good instruction, trying things out, learning from it, and moving, to really enhance the learning of our students. So that's something we're really thinking through. Next slide. So the other thing that we've been working on is just addressing the teacher shortage, right? Which we understand is a really critical area, and it's going to be for us, it requires a partnership, really thinking about partnerships. So none of this work happens alone. So these kind of 4 layers on the graphic just kind of lay out what we're doing. We're in year 4 of our NSF Noise Grant, which we have retained funding for. That is no small feat in today's climate. We know institutions that have lost that grant. So we have a grant for to prepare 25 STEM majors to work in high needs math and science areas. We've got 21, many of them already graduated. We have 4 slots for the next year to be able to fill. And we plan to reapply for that grant. We're also in the second year of a teacher residency program, which we did with JCPS. I want to thank the University of Louisville. They kind of forged this path first, and then we were able to come in and build on that. And U of L and Bellarmine have been really strong partners in this work. We have added that dual cert option with special education in that residency work because we know special ed teachers are a huge need, right? And then we're also in year 1 of what I'm calling our boutique dual credit partnerships. So we are finally a teaching and learning partner, which we have not been until this past year. We've always taken that credit and we've supported Educators Rising, but it's taken a while for us to get Bellarmine to kind of in the dual credit world. We're just a small institution, right? She is mighty. She's tiny, but she's fierce. So we have 6 institutions in JCPS that we are partnering here. And I'm calling it boutique dual credit partnerships because these are Bellarmine classes and we're making them Bellarmine classes. So we did deep training with the teachers this summer. We have a cohort that we will meet with them regularly every fall and spring. We're organizing recruitment events on campus to bring them to campus. But we want to make sure that those students are coming to us prepared in the ways that we feel really good about, or going to other institutions prepared that way, right? We recognize that they're not all going to come to Bellarmine. I want them to. That doesn't mean they will. And then we also have a long-standing 2x2 pathway with KCTCS and early entry options for MAT. And again, those are just ways for us to address the teacher shortage and to hopefully increase that pipeline and get students in the classroom faster. Next slide. So we're also thinking about building teacher capacity because this is a little soapbox of mine. We can get new teachers in the field, but they will not stay if they do not feel like they have a strong career pipeline or they can be professionally and intellectually satisfied in their jobs. So we at the advanced level, I'm talking about the bottom graphic first, we created an inclusion of cognates in our teacher leader program. Every single one of these is stakeholder informed. So I have 2 different boards that inform what we do at Bellarmine, and they have really shared with us what the needs are in their schools and in their districts. So one is a trauma-informed pedagogy cognate. The other is STEAM practices. We consider that A to be really important, right? Because art is the human part of STEM. And so we really infuse that program with design thinking and design learning so that we recognize when we're solving STEM-based problems, we're doing it with people in mind, right? And this is just Elizabeth on her soapbox, as we think more and more about the role of AI, it is begging us to think, what is the role of the humanness in education, right? We have a literacy cognate that people can do if they don't want to do the full literacy specialist degree, and then we're rolling in our ELL program for that. And that's really because we want to give teachers choices about where they will go next. And we want them to think about how they can stay in education for the long term. And we're hoping this will help them do that. At the initial certification level, Dr. Thompson spoke at our president's cabinet several years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. And I remember, because the deans were invited to attend, and he looked at me and he said, content matters, and education schools have to do a better job with that. Well, I feel really good at the undergraduate level about the content that our students get. But as I mentioned, the MAT, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So all of our middle and secondary MAT majors get 2 methods courses in their content. And that's a change that we made because we wanted them to be able to think about assessment, very content specific, differentiation, very content specific. In my mind, those are actually a little bit advanced methods, right? So let's spend methods 1 on big picture, pedagogical content knowledge. How do you think about lessons? How do you do lesson structure? Let's spend methods 2 really thinking about more advanced practices and giving our sometimes alt-cert teachers, sometimes future teachers opportunities to think deeply about that. And then we also have done an expanded discussion of ethics for educators. And that's a conversation that we realize really matters. Allison Bell, years ago when I stepped into this position, talked to me about the Model Code of Educator Ethics in addition to the Kentucky Code of Ethics, right? And what does that mean? And so we've had some sort of ongoing conversations, and our foundations faculty have really said, like, let's tackle this full on and let's think about it. For example, Senate Bill 181, right, when that came out, like the summer MAT class spent some big time talking about that from an ethical perspective. Not just a pragmatic perspective in terms of like, what's the challenge this gives you as in your job, but like, let's talk about the ethics of communication and how that's shifted today. Next slide, and this is second to last. So just some big things we're thinking about right now. We're doing a unit-wide examination of AI use in K-12 education, and really that should say K-20 education. We spend a lot of time talking about this, not just from a pragmatic perspective, knowing that it's happening, but from an ethical perspective in terms of what is it that our students need. We also really think about the strategic alignment of delivery, content demands, and educator preparation. Again, there is a push for online learning, and that's a great thing. It increases access, but I think it begs the question for us, which is like, how does the delivery model shape the way we teach? And what do we need to do to make sure that we're preparing teachers to go in face-to-face or hybrid classrooms and do really good work? We're exploring the idea of an apprenticeship. We're still thinking about how to support new teachers and mentorship. So the research is really clear here. The research says that EPPs belong in that mentorship relationship, that those first 1 to 2 years of a new teacher's career, they understand how their EPP gives feedback, and we are a bit of a safe zone for them. Their supervisors, their department chairs may not feel as safe, regardless of what the school is trying to communicate. And so we are trying to think about how can we provide that bridge to be better handoffs. Nobody in my institution prepares educators who are going to leave after year 1 or year 2. We want them to stay and be lifelong educators and leaders. And then we're still looking at how do we recruit high needs areas. So we're still talking about STEM recruitment, special education, and middle school. We recognize, and I was a middle school teacher. I love that age. But for some reason, that is an age that makes undergraduates in particular apprehensive, right? And then we're thinking about structural supports for education students who struggle. As we're expanding pathways, as we're opening up our pipeline, sometimes our students are coming to us and they don't do so well on test preparation, right? And so that's a structural problem. It needs a structural solution. So while we use the CKEC grants and payback opportunities, we also I'm like, what do we need to do? I mean, we're toying with a 1-credit class that we require everybody to take who comes to us who doesn't have a ACT score that meets the requirement. Something like that. We haven't solved it yet, but I think that that's big. We also are seeing English as second language students who want to become teachers, which is great. And sometimes, and they're fluent. Like, let me make really clear, they're excellent, amazing students at college students, but sometimes they have gaps in their knowledge that comes up through a standardized test. And so we're thinking about how do we support them in that space. And I would say that's a structural kind of question. And then the last slide is What questions do you have for me? And to thank you.
I don't have questions. I have lots of notes, and just want to echo. I mean, I know CJ and I are both MAT. I know Captain Rosinski came from a different career prior to this. Like, I in talking to Dr. Yo at EKU, I mean, that's some of the feedback that she's getting is that MAT candidates are really struggling as they're getting into the classroom. And just how do we support that? And I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer, but as we're seeing more and more MAT candidates enter that are not going through traditional programs, and at least when I came in, you had to do 6 hours before you went into the classroom. I'm not sure that's even still the case. I don't know, but I'm hearing people that are like, oh, I'm getting a job and I'm starting the program at the same time. I'm like, holy moly. So I think that is very much a real concern and issue that I'm thankful you all are aware of and addressing. I'm thankful, and I think Dr. Fletcher's a math teacher, former math teacher too. So the three of us are all math teachers that I have been observed for the past 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 or 6, using the KMIT. And you're exactly right. It is very different than what a lot of people have seen before. And some of the struggles that I've seen with my pre-service student teachers that have come in is when they're getting a clinical, educator that doesn't have a math background, and the things we may do and what we do in math classrooms now that we know are research supported, there's just not an alignment there. So I'm very thankful that you're taking the opportunity to have them trained and aligned and all of those things. And I think KCM is a phenomenal resource. I will never not stop singing their praises as someone who's been a part of that program, that they've just done amazing things. But you're right with the elementary confidence as well. Like, building that efficacy for them is so important because they lay the foundation for us middle school teachers and then the high school teachers. And so when we get the kids that are coming to high school that are on a 2nd or 3rd grade level, that maybe they didn't get that elementary experience because somebody didn't feel comfortable and the time got cut short and all of those things, I appreciate that you all recognize the value of that. So I just really wanted to say thank you. I sat here and I was like, I want to thank you, Dr. Dickens, and what can I follow up with? So thank you so much for being the first and doing a phenomenal job. So thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. And the last thing I just want to close by saying that we are an incredibly collaborative state when it comes to EPPs. And so we are all unified in wanting to prepare the best teachers we can for Kentucky students. And in that sense, we're unified with your mission. So I am looking forward to hearing what other EPPs are doing. And I encourage you all to reach out to us if there are things that you need or questions that you have. We are always happy to collaborate. Sometimes we just don't see the same things you do. So we aren't sure what's always necessary. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Other updates I did have, and speaking about Dr. Dinkins, the teacher capacity, I think that may tie into some of the collaboration that we're talking about doing with KBE. So I think that's an excellent tie-in there as well. For the August KBE meeting, we provided a written update to the KBE regarding the recent work of EPSB. At future in-person meetings, we plan to provide the KBE with a live update, and we'll also provide the KBE chair and vice chair the opportunity to provide EPSB with a similar update. So we look forward to hearing from KBE at the future meetings and continuing our working relationship. We will now move to consent items. Items A through F are listed on the agenda as consent items. I will give the members a moment to review the list.
make a motion to approve consent items A through F.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Does anyone wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? All right. Having received no requests to remove items from the consent agenda, the motion before the board is to approve consent items A through F. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Today we have one information item. This item is presented to the board for review and discussion only by Mr. Todd Davis.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Over recent months, you've heard a lot of discussion and work that's gone on around 16 KAR 2010 as it relates to our certification structure. However, today, the information item relates to 16 KAR 2020, which is the regulation that houses the certifications for the occupation-based career and technical educators here in Kentucky. Today, I have with me Ms. Lauren Graves and Ms. Carmela Clark from the Office of Career and Technical Education, and they will share, give you a chance to learn and have some discussion around some proposed amendments due to the evolution and the transition of career and technical education and the growth and the focus in that area as well. So at this time, I turn this over to Ms. Graves and Ms. Clark.
Good morning and thank you. So today we're bringing 16 KAR 2020, which is occupation-based teacher certification, with proposed amendments for your review. Most of the amendments are really just to bring clarity to the requirements in the process and to align to what the current practice is. Additionally, you'll see a more significant amendment in Section 5. So during the last legislative session, we were approached by a legislator to address barriers for those seeking occupation-based certification. Specific reference was made to 3 occupation areas, which is electricity, plumbing, and HVAC. It was provided that recruitment and retainment of these individuals who are experts in their field, but then required to obtain an associate's degree to teach students knowledge and skills which they have demonstrated expertise in through their careers was a challenge. The OCTE staff worked with OELE to arrive at what we think removes a barrier for recruitment and retainment purposes while maintaining the integrity of the teaching profession. Individuals in electricity, plumbing, and HVAC who hold a current Kentucky-issued master license earned through proper assessment will no longer be required to earn an associate's degree with those proposed amendments, though that option is certainly still available to them. These individuals would come in at a rank 3, and if an associate's degree is earned, the individual would earn a rank 2 status. These individuals will still be required to participate and successfully complete NTI, which is the New Teacher Institute. That includes professional learning in the areas of classroom management, lesson planning and curriculum, assessment, academic integration of numeracy and literacy, and instruction for students with special learning needs. We appreciate the collaborative work with OELE, and we're happy to answer any questions that you all have.
I felt some, but I was going to let you
I
go
felt
first.
a couple of eyes on me over here. I think it's a great idea. I'll just say right off the bat, I was reading over this, and hiring and retaining experts in their field, and then the added burden of them going to get that associate's degree is a significant barrier to bringing in industry professionals. I'm glad to see that we're going to keep the NTIP, the NTI. The 2-year NTI program through KDE for that, and then the fact that they have the rank 3. So my understanding is that if they're to advance to the rank 2, they would still have to go back and obtain the associates. Are there any provisions right now for proficiency in the attainment of that associates based on their master certification?
So not at this time. However, I will say we have an occupation-based salary group that we're getting together to review some of these things. So we don't yet want to go into the rank until we figure out what we're doing with that as well. So it may be future conversations that we have.
That's fair. Is there a discussion about expanding it to other industries as well?
We are definitely exploring that. Right now, we're sticking with these 3 areas. We kind of want to see how those go, get a little bit more data from it, and then make that determination.
Excellent. Thank you.
And just for clarification, NTI in this space
Yes, yes.
is New Teacher Institute.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
Some people hear NTI and it's non-traditional instruction, so.
That is absolutely
New
correct,
Teacher
and we're
Institute.
open to suggestions for a name change on that. We're actually exploring that as well. So if you've got any ideas, send them our way, please.
I just had a question because I don't know much about the NTI from this perspective. How many hours is that for that New Teacher Institute? Is that like a 2-hour seminar that they do? Is that, you listed a lot of things, so I was just curious what that looked like.
I don't have the details with me on that, but I will say we do have a document out there that prescribes the different professional developments. It may be like 4 hours here. It's different times that they get together. They are required to convene, and then there are some things that they do outside of that as well. But within that, it's typically over 2 years. But I can certainly provide you, we have a new pamphlet for that.
I can help.
Yes.
And there's also.
So once they're hired, obviously they attend the Kentucky Association of Career and Technical Educators summer conference where they have their separate cohort. They go to a fall 2-day training. They go to a spring 2-day training. They're required to have a mentor. That mentor is required monthly to check in with them and document certain things. They have deliverables that they need to produce regarding lesson planning, assessment, et cetera, over that 2-year period. And for them to have their provisional certification reissued for the second year, they have to have met all of those benchmarks, and then it happens again for that second year before they are issued their professional certificate.
So it is almost in essence a slight 2-year program that they are
Yes.
completing, which I think maybe to your point of the proficiency, like at the completion of that program, if they were to stay in it, like I would consider that almost at the level of the associate's degree possibly for that rank change. I don't know, is that
That's an interesting question that I would have to
dig
ponder
into,
a little bit
but
more.
I mean, if you're doing a 2-year program that provides a lot of those things, then I would be curious what the additional requirements of the associate's degree would be. And is that in the field of education, or is that just an associate's degree to get them?
The associate degree has to be in their content area.
Okay.
So if it's a carpentry instructor, it has to be something related to construction.
So even though they're a master person already in that field, possibly have been working for a while, then we require an additional associate's degree.
Because a
for
lot
that.
of those come in with no college at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have some universities, I know Murray State has just developed where they are going to give some college credit for that New Teacher Institute.
Okay.
But it's not a full-blown associate level program because it focuses on real-time needs for new instructors in the classroom. You know, how do you transition from being in construction to being in a classroom? So that's really more the focus of New Teacher Institute. I mean, they deal with classroom management, you know, they talk about grading, discipline, you know, even things like, you know, what is Infinite Campus and how do you navigate that and what does that entail? So it's really the design for New Teacher Institute is to provide those occupation-based teachers with resources and support with transitioning into teaching because they've never, you know, they didn't go to school to teach if they actually have a degree at all. So that's the focus of that New Teacher Institute is just to get them through that first 2 years, and if we can get them to that point, you know, the likelihood of them staying in that teaching profession goes way up.
Yeah, I would be very curious as to the hours that takes to complete that. You know, the level of rigor that goes along with that, and just as someone who came from the business world, right, and tried to come into education with a master's degree already, it was a little frustrating that you mean my MBA doesn't count for, and I understand that these folks may not have gone to school, but if they're masters within their profession, I would be curious as to what that looks like.
Well, as a person that held an MBA coming into the occupation-based teaching, for teaching business and marketing, you would start at rank 1. So there would be no
Right.
other degree requirements required in your particular case.
If you go the business and marketing.
If you went business
do
and marketing.
not, then it
Well,
was very different.
and a lot of, yeah, well, and some of them do come in with degrees already. A large percentage of them do. So NTI is really just, like I said, to kind of provide them those resources and support just to make that transition. And then we look at, what do they need to continue?
Yeah. And I can say that when you think about the 2-year program of new teacher induction, by the end of their second year, they are comparable to a sophomore in a traditional teaching program, and they have taught an entire pathway, industry certified students who have now gone on to the workforce. And when you start looking at the differences between the ranks based on the education in the same building, you might have an electrical expert who's been working in the field for 20 years using that master's certification. And you might have a more, I'll use law enforcement, a police officer who does have a bachelor's in police science. They both spent 20 years in their career, but the difference is a rank 3 and a rank 1 based on that degree. And so keeping experts in these occupation-based areas is a significant challenge when it comes to pay as well, because they are recruited all the time by the workforce to get them back. One of my former employees has called me and is facing that battle now. He's finished the second year of NTI. He's going to have to go back to school to start working on his degree, and industry is calling him and offering him, significant pay. And so keeping, we spend so much time recruiting these teachers from industry to come to the classroom, but then we just can't keep the best and the brightest because we're competing with that pay. And when what we tell them is to increase your pay, you have to go back to school and obtain these additional degrees.
And then I guess another question I would have as far as their industry certifications, because they have to be currently certified in the industry. So I know from, a teacher perspective, we have so much professional development that we're required to do a year. I'm assuming that they probably also have industry specific, so, professional development that they have to do as well. And so just some consideration possibly for those things also.
Absolutely.
I think it's an excellent, excellent area to expand, and I'm really, really happy to hear it.
Thank you.
Sorry, go.
Yep. One, I do appreciate the work here. I don't know enough about the Kentucky master license in those areas. I don't know what it takes to recertify. Does it take hours in the field, and does this prevent them from being able to recertify for that Kentucky master license in HVAC or electricity? I don't know how that, I don't want it to, if there's a way that we then need to talk to who is doing the certification for HVAC, electricity, and those, because I don't want it to fault that, hey, they're not in the field, they're in the classroom, they're still doing that work. So I didn't know if there's a loophole and there's an unintended consequence for them going this route where they're not able to recertify.
For them to maintain, if they have a master's electrical license, for them to maintain that, they have to do so many hours of continuing education, and then they can recertify. And probably the majority of them still continue to do electrical work or HVAC work or plumbing work on the side during the summer. So, I mean, we can double check that, definitely, but I really don't think that there would be that unintended consequence, because they do have to do those continuing education hours, and that's what that recertification is based on.
Okay.
They've got a built-in teacher side gig. They're good.
They do, but I don't want to also, we should be paid as a profession to not have a second side gig. And so if they want to be teachers of HVAC, they should be able to focus solely on that. And so pay the teachers.
Get signs put in front of these if the things are going for.
Just one side, pay the teachers. That's it.
But thank you all.
Sorry, we're getting distracted. Just thank
totally
you so
got it.
very much. Thank you so very much.
So for clarification, it'll be coming back to us in the form of a regulation change?
I don't know that I ever turned this back on correctly. There we go. So yes, this is before you for information today. Between this meeting and the September 8th meeting, that is our current hope. Normally, we don't add items to your open session in the virtual meetings, but this one, especially based on the conversation today, we do think we can have it ready for you for action at September 8th, which will keep us on track with being able to file it before the September 15th deadline, so we can start it through the process.
Okay, good.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Again, it's been a crazy morning, guys. We actually have 3 information items, so I'm so sorry. The second item is from Dr. Diebel, information item B.
Hello.
Hello.
You can't go a meeting without saying hi to me, so. But this is actually really simple. Our Council for Accreditation of Educator Preparation, CAPE, requirements for accreditation. We approved AQUIP last time. This time it's just an updated letter. Everything's pretty much staying the same. The fees are less, so that's a benefit for our office. But we will still have, I will still be a part of the process. We'll still appoint a Kentucky person to sit on each team and participate in all of their, trainings and everything that we've been able to do. So really, there's no real update, just more so to let you know that we're continuing our partnership with them. So anything else? Any questions? No? Good? All right. Thank you.
And for information item C is presented by Ms. Cassie Trueblood.
So I think you all must be excited for this one because we already got into it just a little bit. Information item C is on page 57 if you're in the PDF, and that's starting the discussion regarding your legislative priorities. The mind baffles at the fact that we could already be talking about another legislative session. But once you finish one, it is time to start thinking about the next. This next session will start in January. We've already had the interim meetings going. Multiple of us were at the Interim Joint Committee for Education yesterday to listen to various presentations, some from the department participating in those as well. But with the 26th session, this will be a budget year, and that means that it is a longer session. So while it still manages to cover about the same amount of calendar time, it is 60 legislative days. And so we do want to start talking about the board's legislative priorities. So today this is just for information and to get your feedback, and then we will bring it back to you in October in a hopefully final draft form for you to approve, and we can get this to our legislative director, Brian Perry, so that he can have that as he is having those discussions with legislators. But what I have for you today in the materials is your priorities from the 2025 session. And we thought this would be a great place to start the discussion about what you would like to retain, what changes you may like to make. I will note that we did see some of this come to action. As we mentioned, we did see Senate Bill 181, which, while the initial conversations were around grooming, it did take aim at some of those behaviors that can lead to that. As the commissioner mentioned, we did also have a wonderful meeting yesterday already talking about the cleanup for that, and that is going to be a priority of the legislature this session. Under our mentoring and induction, we saw some changes to that statute last year, not necessarily the changes that we were hoping for, but it did give our district some relief around the use of the Title II funds. However, in doing that, instead of providing the funding so we could supplement, not supplant,
They made it so that it was not required. It was more optional. However, in the reporting requirement for the report that OELE staff will work on for reporting to the legislature, it is going to require that we provide information on districts that do not have mentoring and induction programs aligned to the guidance and standards developed by EPSB. However, continuing to request funding may be something that will get a little further in a budget session. Financial incentives, we do still have information out there regarding the student teacher stipend as well as the scholarships. And then one area that has been mentioned towards the end of financial incentives is that request for funding for assessment reimbursement and mentoring as praxis and certification assessments continue to be a topic of discussion, wanting to remove those barriers for our applicants. Elevating the profession. And then under statutory cleanup, I'm happy to report that we did see that first sentence be accomplished. There was changes to the board's makeup. We have not received the appointment yet, but we are very hopeful that that is coming any day now. Where our private EPP representative can now be a dean of the College of Education at that private institution to better align with the language around our publics as well. So that was a lot of me talking. I would love to hear from the board and what you would like to see in this document, what your priorities are for the upcoming session.
If I may, Chair Snell. A couple items that this board may already be aware of is if you look at some of the topics in our interim joint committee on education, and the very first interim joint committee on education, the very first topics was principal programs. So it would be, I do look for some legislation along the lines of principal mentorship, induction, and things of that nature. Also, too, I'd like to also thank OELE for their work with, we had, I think it was Senator Deneen and others that we talked to about creating a pathway with some funding that's there on how we can possibly get a teacher through dual credit and others all the way through with no, essentially tuition free by the time that they finish. So that's something that we're also working on as we move forward. We've talked with others, and we hopefully we got some momentum with that. The other item that I believe just makes sense is this universal application across the Commonwealth, whereas you do one application and you can say, I can send it to any district that I want to send it to. And so that would also help us. There's funding there that we wouldn't have to ask for funding, and it goes back to the certifications of people renewing their certifications. And the commissioner renewed his this summer, by the way. I am still a certified physics and math teacher, just so you know. But with that being said, there are some priorities there that we overlap, and I think that we have in common there, just so that you know, with EPSB and KBE. But again, I know that our board, not only I say our board, EPSB, and also the Board of Education, Kentucky Board of Education, both want to elevate the teaching profession. Both want to make sure that we're bringing teachers into the field, but also, too, making sure we provide those supports as we move forward.
I have some, but more just reiterating some of the others. So I'll talk about funding for mentorship programs. I think the last time was 2018 when it was unfunded mandate for KTIP, and now I know we have KEMP now, which I think is really good. And I just want to make sure that all of our schools are doing that. I know that there's a provision that says, we're going to report out who's not doing it. So what? We're going to report that you're not doing. There's no consequence for that. And we know the importance of mentoring. And so I'm really concerned about the districts in our rural areas, the ones that are farther away from EPPs that are just don't have the funding to do it. It's not that they don't want to, they just don't have the resources. So fully funding the KEMP or the mentorship program, along with the principal mentorship, which was even lack of funding. I don't know that date, but even further back,
2008, I believe.
2008. So funding for, and we know we want to try to get people into those roles, and then they're in there and they need mentorship and guidance as much as our teachers do. Overall, just teacher pay. I will say, I know this is silly, but yesterday I was filling up gas at Buc-ee's and I'm looking over, the little, I know you've seen it, because if you're there, it's like, here's what we pay our assistant manager or our general manager. And I'm thinking, I'm nowhere near that. And then I start thinking, okay, well, how many days do they, like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, I love my job, but I'm still thinking, what could I do to help offset that price? And it's just crazy that I'm going to a gas station and thinking,
Maybe.
you know what? They're getting paid more than myself. And I know that I have a great job and I have a purpose, but we need to pay our educators. So that's as well. The other one, I just wanted to go back, if it's okay. It's more of to Dr. Fletcher when you were talking about the accountability model. And this is more of internal. I don't think it's a legislative thing. I just feel like I would be amiss if I did not speak up and say it. But it's how we report data back to schools. It is so frustrating as a teacher when we get to the new year and we get data back and it says we went up or we went down, and I'm like, great, we went down. So now I've got to change something, but because it's not reported back as a broke down by standards, I don't know what I need to change in my practice to do better so that students are going back. I just get, here's a raw score. And for a social studies teacher who is 6th through 8th grade, I don't know if it's my content that I need to focus on or where in mine. I might have a year where I was like, well, I think I didn't do so well in this unit. I'm going to do better, but I don't know if I'm actually hitting the target goal. I don't even know if it's in 6th grade or 7th grade. And I know we have this new accountability model, and the reporting back, I think we all as educators want our students to do the best. And if we knew how we could change our practice as educators, we would absolutely change it. But because we don't know where to start, it's just we're throwing a dart at a board in a dark room and hoping it gets better for the next year. So that's like, I'm excited about the accountability model, but I know I've been saying for years, like, we've got to report back. I'm not asking for I don't think teachers are necessarily asking, what are the test questions? We're just saying, what are the standards I need to focus on as my practice to do better? Because it's so frustrating every year as a teacher to get them back and pray that I guessed better last year at what I was doing than the year before. So that was sort of back to the accountability model. I then would like to know, I guess now that we're on KDE, have they already gone through their legislative priorities, and where do ours in the past sort of continue to line up with theirs so that we could really have a focused effort together jointly? All right, I'll stop. I'm sorry.
That was all great.
Yes, I will echo that. Transitioning from a school where when we did industry certifications, we would get them broken down and our teachers would be able to go, oh, I need to work on breaks, or oh, I need to work on resume writing, or whatever the case may be. And then I've come into a new school and we are starting to see data, and my investigator brain was like, okay, well, where are the breakdowns here? Well, we don't know. And I was shocked to learn that, coming from something where we were able to drill down and target. So I would echo that tremendously. Not the questions, but definitely the standards.
And to add to that, one of the things that we're looking at for, when we put out a request for RFP out, we are looking at what exactly, we want to make sure that we're getting data back. For example, one of the proposals in the new accountability model is for us to have an interim assessment model that could replace like the MAP, STAR, iReady, and then after you give maybe your fall, then you get that level of instructional information back that you can make a change tomorrow, and it's aligned with the state accountability model. So again, the interim assessments are the optional piece, but that's the other thing that we're looking at as far as what all do we want to include in our RFP, a request for proposals, in order to make sure that we're getting that type of data back to teachers. And the biggest complaint that we always hear is, getting that information back in a timely fashion. And in order to do that, I think we're going to have to look at an interim assessment, so that happens during the school year. So again, the interim assessments wouldn't be a part of accountability, but they would give you instructional information, just like what a lot of districts do with iReady or STAR and MAP. So I think that's something that, I know that's something that we're looking at trying to focus in on as we present our new accountability model.
And I mean, just to echo as a middle school teacher for the past 7 years, you know, when you're using the different models, iReady, maps, whatever, that don't always align, or there's a crosswalk to cross-reference to tie in the standards, you know, I created my pacing guide for my freshman algebra class, and I had an extra 3.5, 4 weeks of instruction because we were not doing fall testing, winter testing, spring testing, KSA testing. And so if there was that piece that tied in already with the accountability model directly, that you could do the fall baseline, right? And then an interim winter, and then, you know, then the accountability model piece comes in the spring, right? But you don't need to test again with the separate system in the spring. That's just the piece. And then it all ties together so that you can drill down, but then also providing the information back to educators sooner, because, you know, at the end of the year, you're trying to adjust and look and see, well, what do I need to do differently for next year? And information isn't getting to the educators until late September, early October, a lot of times. And so at that point, you've built your pacing guide. You've built the things that you need to do to teach your class, and it's really hard to adjust. So, like Justin said, you're throwing a dart sometimes and hoping that you hit the right one, but just making that process a lot more streamless and efficient, I think. And I think it was Dr. Brewer that talked about some of those efficiencies and looking at those efficiencies, and, you know, from the business world, that Lean Six Sigma, that streamline of processes and systems. Like, how can we do that in the education world? And there's a way to do it, but how do we do it? So I think those are amazing conversations to be having.
I'll add one thing to that. As you look at, one of the biggest complaints was when we were getting out data, and long before Robbie Fletcher was commissioner, they started getting out student-level data the first week of August, which is good, which is really good, because you're just turning around data. But we also one of the few states that actually gives data to districts early and have it go through that quality control process, so they can actually look at the data before we send it out. So there's some things that pushes that data back, but still, yeah, we're to compensate. We try to get that out in that first week, is I think August 6th or 7th. We didn't send out this year. But with that being said, I think if you have that interim assessment process, you know, for example, and I won't mention any of these products by name, like you have some products that will give you like individual intervention plans for students. And some of you are shaking your head, and that's phenomenal when you have an individual intervention plan. If you had that, and again, that costs more money, and some districts invest in that, and that's great, because then you have a personalized plan for improving the student. Now, depending on what we put in our RFP, we would like to have the level of data for at the very least, that you get, this is the standard that's struggling, this is the information, and things of that nature. And teachers are great about taking that information and running with it. So
I think that's easy information to get back to teachers. I'm sorry I got us off on a tangent.
I know, I was going to I can't help it, but still limits, because like as a 8th grade English teacher, you know, these programs that we use are Common Core, which is not what our state testing is. So there are some differences, which we've dove in, and you know, we know how to align them, but I'm assessed in writing and grammar in addition, you know, to reading, and a lot of those baseline tests that we use 3 times a year, those don't give me any of that sort of data. So then again, I'm kind of blindly, you know, and I've been bugging my principal pretty relentlessly to try to see a breakdown, because I'm like, I'm starting, like, I need to know what I didn't do good on so I can fix it. You know, I want to prepare my students as best I can, and if I'm not doing something correctly, I need to fix it now. So.
It's best practice for students, best practice for us as educators. Okay, sorry. Any other priorities that we wanted to discuss that are actually on our legislative priorities? Jacqueline, do you have something?
Well, I have something, but I'm not sure if this is the right time to share, but there is a rise in, it appears, at least at my school, that there is a rise in students who are enrolled with autism. And when I compare the number when I first started to now, it's a big difference. But back years ago, they would have assistants that were trained specifically to work with these students so that the children would be successful within the classroom. They would go with them, from class to class, and they have done away with that, which sets those children up for failure and the teacher when there is no one, when there are limited opportunities for children with special needs. So I don't know if this is the time to discuss that or not.
So, I do think that falls and can fall under a heading of wanting continued supports for the profession as well as for students. And I know one of the nice things with being here at the department and the collaboration is we can share that with our Office of Special Education as well in between this meeting and the next to get some additional feedback on that issue for you as well.
Thank you.
And I think this goes back to funding, because, for example, to bring up a point about, I worked in a small district. We made it a priority to have an induction program so that teachers had supports with special education, we had specialists in special education that had other hats. But they were also teacher mentors. Then we had others that were trained to help our elementary math teachers. So we made it a priority to have those supports or to have autism supports within our classrooms. But unfortunately, there's just a certain pie. There's just a certain budget. So do you look at teacher pay? Where are you on the scale in teacher pay? So again, I'm not always the biggest fan of saying just throw money at it. I think as you increase budgets and things of that nature, what specifically do we want that funding to go for? So some of our smaller districts, as Mr. Mitchell pointed out, they're tasked with what are our priorities within our district and what are we going to fund, what are we not going to fund. And again, the legislature did a historic increase in the SEEK per pupil allotment. But again, I will always lobby for more funding to help our students and our staff members to make sure that, one, they get paid on the level, or I don't know if you could ever pay a teacher on the level that they deserve. Just the impact that they make, but a little closer, if you will.
And I don't know if not that to be required, but maybe as a component of the mentoring and induction programs, just something along the lines of special education. Because in talking with a veteran teacher yesterday who was middle school certified, she came, she said, how do you read these IEPs? Like, I'm not sure exactly what to pull out. And she said, please don't be upset. And I'm not upset. Let's learn. This is what I'm looking for. And I had a pre-service teacher who was observing yesterday, and only 1 year in, but I said, have you ever seen an IEP? Here's how you need, and she just was overwhelmed. So I think you're right. We're seeing more and more service needs and needs to be identified. What is that process? Because as it makes its way out of elementary and into the middle school and high school settings, is that a component that a recommended component or suggested component, not a required component, but something for the mentoring and teaching programs that, to Justin's point, should be compensated for.
And one more thing. I know we talked about, when Justin was talking about pay the teachers, and you had mentioned that you came in with the MAT.
MBA.
And there are so many people that change their careers later in life, and they may have already been making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. then they become a teacher and they have to start at the bottom. And it's not considered at all that these folks were making a larger amount of money. They're not considering any of their work background. It's like starting from scratch all over again when you go into the education field after you've had worked in another field for years. If they could be compensated a little bit, I know they can't be where everybody else is or where they started, but, just look at the compensation so that we can get more people in as educators who want to change their field.
So something along the lines possibly of your year's experience teaching being part of that pay scale, but also maybe your years of work experience in a professional setting being considered as part of financial incentives or various
Correct.
rank levels or something like that.
Exactly.
I don't know how well that falls under that financial incentives, but yes.
I can also say that that does happen, but it is inconsistent. It just is district-based. Some districts will recognize that. Other districts will not. And so when you start looking at making changes, you have to, one district will say, we'll recognize now that you've been teaching 5 years, we'll recognize that 5 years, even though another district has said, we recognize the value of that other experience that you're bringing into it, and they pay you at that. So even district to district, there is inconsistency.
I would think you'd want to be very careful about the requiring of that because, your larger districts like JCPS and Fayette would be able to possibly provide those incentives, but then Estill and Owsley, may not. And so I love the conversation, and I don't know how that filters into financial incentives, but I think that there's a way to at least explore it. But I think that, mandating that difference, there again, even if it was just a suggested something for the districts to consider, that as you're recruiting folks, consider these additional incentives that could be counted for those years of experience.
We did the same, and again, you're absolutely right. It varies from district to district, but the superintendent did recognize, like, for example, we had a nursing instructor that had spent this many years. We recognize her years of experience. Now, how's that look in retirement? I don't know. You'd have to go to TRS to find out what that looks like. But I do know that, districts will, if you're looking at someone that's been a nurse for X number of years and they started teaching, you do have that ability to recognize those years of service on the pay scale. And again, it depends on the district. And again, what funding's available.
In the certification. The certification, right? So
well, as long as they
recognizing
have the certification, a lot of times we go through an alternate certification process, but we did recognize a carpentry teacher with years of experience, not necessarily a rank change, but years of experience, things of that nature.
I have a couple quick things, not to prolong, but I want to get it on the record. Very thankful for everything the board has shared and excited for us to shape and mold where we're looking here for the next session. I'll open my remarks with I have been very grateful for legislators who are willing to have meetings and really want to advance public education and what's right for students and what's right for our profession. And I'm very optimistic that we can continue to foster those really great relationships here in Frankfurt. So with that said, in that lens, I know we had the anti-grooming language in here. I definitely want to keep that in there. I know there's been some efforts, like we talked about, some original intent of Senate Bill 181, but specifically the multiple iterations of Representative Tipton's bill. We still really want to get that across the finish line. It got so close, and we really want to get it there. I know that we are in some conversations, and I know we have some good draft model legislation that might help with that, but I just want to keep that in the forefront of what we're doing, especially our board, only because we talked. It's been a bunch of numbers.
I think last year it was 36.
And it's changed a bit time to
So
time.
his
but
is not anti-grooming, it was teacher misconduct. Just two separate
Because Dr. Brewer talked about the impact survey today, it's probably worth mentioning that while I know we do have many legislators who do value that survey and take it into account, maybe we could just actively say, as a board, we would love to see our representatives and senators dive into that data. And when they're thinking about top priorities in the session, not that it's going to be a lot of turnaround time with the data coming out in January and the session already starting, but just us really actively saying, in addition to having people at the table and getting input from policymakers, that is a direct way to hear voices from every teacher in the state, assuming participation is at the high levels we're going to get at that. So that would be a nice thing, I think, to say. And then I promise, because I know it's already been shared by many board members, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I need to also add extra voice here, the salary issue, right? I think when I reread how we worded things in our last legislative priorities, I feel like we, as a profession, I think there's always this delicate dance of like, who's going to be the person who says, that teachers aren't compensated appropriately in today's age. And I even read through these like, financial incentives, blah, blah, blah. I think we just need to be blunt and just directly address the salary issue across the state. Because I'll share 2 anecdotal stories real quick. One, my wife is incredible. Not that she's listening, but maybe I'll have her listen to it later. She's also 34 weeks pregnant and like ready to, okay, right. But anyway, she's an incredible nurse, right? She's a registered nurse, has a BSN from NKU, obviously a very tough program to get through. And she deserves every penny she gets. I have a bachelor's of mathematics, a master of arts in teaching, finishing up a master of arts in mathematics, right? Compared to her BSN, which again, not like, right, kind of different kind of thing, but I make 42% of what my wife makes. And my wife has been incredibly supportive of my calling and passion to be in this field, but we've had real conversations about like, should I be doing something else with my knowledge? Just from a meeting ends meet with soon to be 4 kids in our family. So that's me being so invested in this field, knowing in every fiber of my being calls me to be a teacher, but we're having to have real conversations about, is this practical? So I think if I'm at that level and I'm like the eat, breathe, sleep teacher person, right? That worries me about our great teachers across state who maybe aren't even necessarily feeling they're at that level and the conversations they're having at home. So again, I know it's an anecdotal story, but it's one worth saying. And I'll also say, as someone who is lucky to teach our intro to education classes at Beechwood through NKU's College of Education, we sometimes are, again, small school, right? But when we talk to kids who've thought about taking the class and didn't ultimately pull the trigger, they are forefront with the counselors to say, I know you don't have to be a teacher to want to take the class, but I can't even get my foot in the door because I know what teachers make. And these are high schoolers. This isn't because they've been brainwashed or indoctrinated by someone to say teachers don't make enough. They just understand the world enough to know that teachers are not valued from a compensation standpoint at the levels they should be. And if we're really worried about attracting and retaining the best of the best in future generations of amazing educators, we are already at a dead stop, unfortunately, with realistic pay expectations. So again, we are all here because we love the kids and we love what we do, and we know pay is not everything, but it is definitely something, and it is how you live your life, and we have to demand the respect that other workforces have. So again, I know we're beating a dead horse here, but I just feel like we need to be direct in our legislative priorities, that we're past the playing nice and like playing nice from the perspective of acting like, we don't really fully care about pay, but it might be nice. We need to say, no, it's actually impacting the livelihoods of our current force and our future teachers.
CJ, I'll add, not with all respect to the horse.
Sorry, horse.
Other states have addressed this issue much more head-on than we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are some models out there that we can look at that have helped and also hindered. And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned from those models, but at least looking at the models of our surrounding states and making us competitive so that our border counties are not facing the same kinds of challenges with staying within the profession. And then, of course, the concept of fighting against other professions to keep our profession whole with, we would never want to lose a veteran teacher of your spirit, stature, and expertise. So, we really do have to move on this issue in some way, consistent with the states that have already done so.
And I'll add to that, as someone who lives in Northern Kentucky, I get poached and talked to by Ohio teachers all the time, like, come on over here. And I'm glad you added that, Dr. Murphy, because it reminded me too, when Chair Snell and I were at the EARS subcommittee meeting, it was shared some salary data, Kentucky in 2024 is 48th in the country in starting teacher salary. Now, of course, when you play the fun games of adjusting cost of living and all that stuff, we do jump up to 35th, but I think that's even misleading too, because we know Kentucky is so different depending whether you're in Northern Kentucky or, some rural section of the state. So a blanket cost of living for the state is not even really a fair picture. And I would also add, final note on that, because who was that group that compiles that data and made that report at your?
That was the Office of Education Accountability.
Great. I know Representative Tishner actually brought this up, and I'll just echo it. She brought it up in that meeting, and Chair Snell and I were like, well, that would be interesting. I'm going to preface this with, we've got to have amazing central office staff and superintendents and all that. So we know a school district is so hinged on how good of leadership they have, but it would be interesting in that data as they break down district by district, pay figures, if they also gave some intel on how much is being spent in those singular positions at the central office, like superintendent. So when we think about the legislative body might say, hey, look, we're giving all this money to increase pay, right? And then how much of it is going to a position versus all of us in the trenches. So I think that's worth a conversation.
Enough notes.
Some great feedback. And,
It's going to be a 20-page.
So like the next several
document.
legislative priorities, it sounds like.
I think that hearing all of this discussion, it does bring us right back to our legislative priorities, and especially number 4, elevating the profession. We hold educators, especially this board, to such a high level of expectation and accountability. And I think equally so, we need to use our voice to raise the profession by speaking truth, by talking about pay inequity, by talking about the other things that we know, because they are meeting our ethical benchmark. We need to make sure we're doing what we can to help elevate them so that they choose to stay.
I think that was a great final comment there on that section.
Love it. All right, hearing no further discussion, we will now move to action items. The item is being presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A is also presented by Ms. Cassie Trueblood.
So this item should be fairly quick for you. This is the list of all of the regulations that you have that are set to expire during this school year. We bring these to you every August for review with a list of recommendations. With these regulations, we are recommending that you certify all of them because they are still active and needed and do align with statutes. Now, that's not to say that there won't be some additional changes that come with these. We do, the board has heard discussions around some proposed changes for 2010. And so that will come before you at a later date. But by certifying it now, we do keep that in effect and don't have ourselves on a set timeline. So the list of regulations that are expiring are included with links on page 60 in the PDF. And if you have any questions about those, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we would ask that you approve the certification of the expiring regulations.
I make a motion to approve the proposed regulatory actions.
Thank you, Captain Rosinski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. The motion before the board is to approve action item A. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Action item A passes. The board is now ready to review waiver requests. KRS 1610281N provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an applicant for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board a written request along with the appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Sharon Salzman will present the waiver request to the board, and waiver committee member Lisa Rodzinski will present the committee's recommendations for final action, starting with waiver A, presented by Sharon Salzman.
This one is from Christian County Schools for teaching English as a second language. The district currently has over 300 active English language learners, and they have 50 exited and monitored EL students. The district is actively recruiting certified teachers. They are contacting EL or TESOL certified graduates from Kentucky and Tennessee. The district states the candidate who holds certification for teaching elementary has done an excellent job teaching their EL students, and with a lack of certified applicants, they need her to continue in the role. So the district is requesting that the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be offered and issue a sixth.
Captain Rosinski, did the waiver committee make a recommendation?
Yes, Chair. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver requests submitted by Christian County Schools. The committee did not find exceptional circumstances to justify the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the EPSB deny the waiver request.
Thank you. I need a motion.
I make a motion to deny the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to deny waiver A. Is there any discussion?
I think the only thing that we would want to point out from the waiver committee is that there is an option for this person to pursue certification for the year. So that was the deciding factor for us to say no to the sixth, and please pursue the option.
That was going to be part of my question, so thank you for that clarification. All right, we'll move on with voting. All those in favor say aye to deny the motion to deny waiver A.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, all those opposed say nay. All right, motion passes. Waiver A is denied. Next we have waiver B.
This one is also from Christian County, and this is for business education. The district has posted the position, and all other applicants would also require an emergency certification. The district reports that the candidate has shown strong commitment and effectiveness in the classroom. His professionalism, rapport with students, and alignment with the school's missions makes him uniquely positioned to contribute meaningfully to their academic and school climate goals. So the district is requesting that the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be offered and issue a fourth.
Captain Rosinski, does the waiver committee have a recommendation?
Yes, Chair. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Christian County Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends the EPSB grant the waiver.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
I make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. The motion before the board is to approve waiver B. Is there any discussion?
This is the fourth request for this individual, and as we have been consistent in the past with making sure we notify them that it is the last one.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving waiver B, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Waiver B is approved. Moving to waiver C.
This one is from Covington Independent Schools, and this is for a middle school mathematics position. The district states the candidate is currently exploring options and financial plans to enroll in a program to get her master's in teaching. The district also states that the candidate is an excellent teacher and an asset to their middle school, so the district is requesting the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be offered and issue a third.
All right, thank you. Captain Rosinski, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Covington Independent Schools, and the committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends the EPSB grant the waiver.
All right, thank you. I need a motion.
I make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Do I have a second to approve?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. The motion before the board is to approve waiver C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Waiver C is approved. Next, we have waiver D.
This one is from Mason County Schools, and this is for chemistry. The candidate is currently certified in middle school science. This district states they had 0 fully certified applicants, but were informed that this candidate was interested and had experience teaching chemistry. She also has 18 years of classroom experience and will pursue the highly qualified route to become certified in chemistry. The district stated her first emergency certification was only used for 24% of her school day, so the district is requesting that the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be issued and issue a fourth.
All right, Captain Rosinski, did the waiver committee make a recommendation?
Yes, Chair. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Mason County Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKinn. The motion before the board is to approve waiver D. Is there any discussion?
Just consistent with our prior fourth emergency or waiver, this would also be the last. But they are pursuing the highly qualified route.
Okay, thank you so very much. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving waiver D, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Last, we have waiver E.
So this one is from Model Lab Schools at Eastern Kentucky University, and this is for Spanish. School starts on August 25th, and the candidate must retake the praxis assessment, which is scheduled for September 22nd. The school states the candidate has done well as a teacher and just needed more time to prepare for a retake of the assessment, which is why they requested an emergency last school year. He was supposed to retake the assessment during the summer, but considered not returning due to fear of not passing again. The candidate decided to return, but this caused a delay in rescheduling the assessment in a timely manner. So Model Labs is requesting that the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be offered and issue a third.
Thank you. Captain Rosinski, what was the recommendation?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Model Lab, and the committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends the EPSB grant this waiver.
Thank you so very much. Is there a motion?
I make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Do I have a second?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Thank you, Ms. Pittman. The motion before the board is to approve waiver E. Yep, waiver E. Is there any discussion?
I'm sure they're aware, but when we send a letter, just like all the great resources we have and praxis assessment prep and stuff, might be good to just remind them. Not that it's a lot of time before September 22nd, but.
Good suggestion.
All right.
Especially if this one comes back again next year, because I feel like this is a scheduling.
Yeah, because we really do have so many fantastic resources that I don't think everyone's aware of.
I was not
that
aware
too.
of them.
There is a fear.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, no, no.
generally speaking, there is
Absolutely.
just an absolute fear of
Mhm.
taking
Yes,
the praxis.
for sure.
And I think the fear outweighs even the resources that are available.
I
So
totally agree.
Um,
And that was not me being dismissive of the legit
No,
fear.
no.
That was more just
but
friendly reminder.
yes, the reminder is well taken, and so too is the message to all. Just take the exam.
Mhm.
If you take it, you'll know what else you have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Chip heard you say you were afraid. So.
Well, he's cueing into others' fear.
Yeah. All right. The motion before the board is to approve waiver E. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion for waiver E is approved. We have two alternative route to certification applications. These applications are pursuing the option 1, exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternative routes established by the legislature in KRS 161048. An applicant with exceptional work experience must have a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting minimum GPA requirements and an academic major or a passing score on the academic content assessment in the area in which certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The applications are presented by Sharon Salzman.
This one is for Latasha Malone for Computer Information Technology, grades primary through 12. She has over 22 years of professional experience in the field of computer information technology. She has experience in training new employees, creating training plans for new employees, troubleshooting and repairing equipment, analyzing, testing, and evaluating new products, and maintaining accurate records. She has volunteer experience as a computer science judge and an SBDM and PTA member. She holds certification in HP commercial desktops, workstations, and notebook service, and marketplace business simulations. She has a bachelor's of business administration degree and a master's of managing information technology.
At this time, I will need a motion. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. The motion before the board is to approve the alternative route for the information technology certification. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the motion passes. Next is applicant B.
So this is for Brittany Parr, and this is for school media librarian, grades primary through 12. She has 1 year of school librarian media specialist experience. She also has experience as a children's program coordinator at a public library and children's hospital. She has experience with daily library operations, circulating books, creating dynamic displays, and utilizing maker spaces. She also has experience analyzing library statistics, developing lesson plans, collaborating with colleagues, and has taught information literacy, digital citizenship, research, and databases. And she has a bachelor's of arts with a major in English and a focus in educational studies.
All right, do I have a motion to approve applicant B?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. The motion before the board is to approve applicant B. Is there any discussion?
I have one question. What was the certification that was covering their previous year as librarian? Because it said that they have worked as one.
That is a public librarian, not as a school.
The school librarian, Ms. Parr, has 1 year of school librarian media specialist experience.
It'd be a private school too.
Could be.
Newport High School.
Is that a private school?
Let's go to our beautiful website. We have a certification search there.
I was just curious.
Yes, it looks like she was emergency certified.
Emergency certified, thank you. I have no other questions.
Okay, so motion before the board is to approve applicant B. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Applicant B is approved. I will now open the floor to any board members for board comments. Does anyone have anything they would wish to share?
I'll be brief. Just oh gosh, stop it. I'll be brief just to say that while we had lots of robust and fun conversation this morning, the highlight for me was definitely the EPP spotlight, and I'm really excited to have that as a standing part of our meeting. So, Dr. Dinkins, thank you so much for being first. And all of our CACTI friends and EPPs in the room, just know how internally grateful we are for you. Our profession does not exist without you all doing the incredible work you do. So thankful for Dr. Diebel and her team and just holding us to high standards, and the collaboration that Dr. Dinkins talked about that happens between all of our EPPs across state is so amazing. So I'm really excited to hear from the rest. And just on the same token that you said, Dr. Dinkins, like let you all know things that, goes right back here. I hope all of you would reach out to any of us anytime that we as a board can do more to support our fantastic EPPs in our state. So thanks again.
So very rarely do I get to channel my inner Ed McMahon,
Oh my gosh, I stopped.
Vice Chair Fryer was one of our amazing ambassadors spotlighted on a billboard. So if you didn't get to see his image full size on the digital billboards. We do have printed copies. So I wanted to make
Can we
sure.
just put that right here?
You really
Please.
should carry it with you at all that, like sandwich
Oh my
boards.
gosh.
Fantastic.
And the rest of us can pay teachers more, and we'll just put his right there.
Thank you, Dr. Burr.
Anything else, guys?
My only other thing is, we had a lot of weather affect the state this past year. Are there still any needs that we're aware of with school districts as they're going back this year that maybe we can help lend a voice to?
There's only a couple of districts I'm aware of that were having some issues with facility construction. As far as weather related, I believe all are on I'll double check with a couple of districts just to make sure, but they haven't reached out to us to any additional, not to say that they may not need some help, but I'm not aware of any extensions or anything of that nature.
I'll just echo because I think our last one was virtual. Summer was rough for a lot of students. I know for us in the Central Kentucky area, we lost several students to wrecks, to death by suicide, to lots of things that from even early middle school age up, that the impact that we have on our kids is immeasurable, and letting them know that they matter above and beyond the content, that they matter as human beings. Like, I'm excited to have them back in our classrooms so that for the next 9 months we can pour into them and help them find their way. So just keeping in mind those mental health of our students and our families and our communities and our educators as we go through things. Anything else? All right. At this time, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is a motion to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61810(1)C and J to conduct character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to complaints and reports. We will also review pending litigation. Is there any discussion from the board before we proceed with the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are now ready to move into closed session. We'll take a 10-minute. Okay, how about let's come back at 10 till? Is that enough time for us, maybe? 10 till, and we'll go grab lunch. And so everybody be back by 10 till 12. At this time, I will need a motion to go back into open session.
I'll make a motion to go back into open session.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. The motion before the board is a motion to go back into open session. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are now back in open session. At this time, we will vote on those items discussed during closed session. Under character and fitness, case 1, deny. Cases 2 through 15, approve. Substitute character and fitness, case 1, approve. Case 2, deny. Case 3 through 13, approve. I missed a check mark. On agreed orders, cases 1 through 11, we accept all of those. On educator cases, cases 1 through 3, further investigation. Cases 4 and 5, dismiss with prejudice. Cases 6 and 7, approve the PRC agreed order. Case 8, further investigation. Case 9 and 10, approve the PRC agreed order. Case 11, 12, and 13, further investigation. 14, approve the PRC agreed order. 15, further investigation. 16, approve the PRC agreed order. 17, we're going to initiate a hearing. 18, we're going to dismiss with prejudice. And 19 through 21, initiate a hearing. On the findings of fact, conclusion of law, recommended order. For case 1, we accept the petitioner's exception and modify the findings of fact, accept the conclusion of law, and accept the recommended order permanently revoking respondent's certificate. On case 2, we accept the petitioner's exceptions in part, modify the findings of fact, modify the conclusions of law, and modify the recommended order suspending their certificate for 2 years with reinstatement conditions and a permanent probation. For case 3, we accept the petitioner's exceptions and modify the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended order in accordance with the board's discussion permanently revoking the respondent's certificate.
CJ Fryer, yes to all.
Lisa Rodzinski, recuse on educator case number 12. Yes to the rest.
Lori McKeon, recuse on educator case number 15. Yes to the remaining.
Priscilla Keller, yes to all.
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes to all.
Corinne Murphy, yes to all.
Amanda Ellis, recuse on recommended order number 2, and yes to the remaining.
Meredith Pittman, yes to all.
Justin Mitchell, yes to all.
Amber Snell, yes to all. At this time, I will need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I heard Ms. McKinnon first, and Dr. Mitchell has the second. The motion before the board is a motion to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Reminder, our next meeting is September 8th, virtually. So until that time, let's hear a vote on all those in favor of adjourning.
Aye.
We are now adjourned.